Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pop of the Morning. I'm your co-host Phil, and along with me as always is...
your co-host Tom. It's great to be with you here on another fine episode of Pop of the Morning. Greetings to all of you out there in podcast land, wherever you may be listening, whatever time of the day it is when you're listening to this morning show.
Mm-hmm.
Pop of the Morning, of course, is the show where we listen a little more closely to the background music in the cafe that is our lives, right? We're listening to the way that the pop culture just seeps into our conversation, into the way we position ourselves in the world. That's what this show is all about, asking that question, how do the things that we don't think that deeply about, how do they sink deeply into us and inform us and affect us in maybe ways that we're not even really conscious of? Is that a fair summation, Phil?
I think so. I think that's fair. I mean, I'm not going to say it's unfair.
We're sipping on our coffee.
Yeah.
We're two good friends.
And I've got a wifey mug here because I am at my mom's place.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, I am a millennial bum at the moment, living at my mom's. I have no mugs of my own. And so I've got
living
the wifey.
The millennial dream.
Yeah.
Drinking out of your mom's mugs.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
exactly what.
Well into your fourth decade on Earth.
Oh my God. Well, I'm getting to my fourth decade. I got a couple more years.
Got it.
No need to rush into it.
No need to rush. That's
hopefully,
also the millennial
I'm
dream.
hopefully not at my mom's well into my fourth decade here, but we'll see. I mean, I need to get this life going at some point.
But you're taking time to sip your coffee, and that really is the dream.
That is true.
Yeah. I mean, I think that taking time to reflect, taking time to think about the day before it gets going, it's a luxury that I'd say it's a luxury you can't buy, but 100% is a luxury that you can buy. It's the kind of luxury you have if you have, you get to make your own schedule, or if you have the right kind of white collar job.
Yeah. It's I realize how much of a privilege it is to have the ability to be here at my mom's, paying no rent.
Yeah.
And I have a good relationship with her, so it's not like it's like, pain in the butt, and I think she enjoys having me here. But yeah, I realize how much, how great it is to be able to do this, especially, during this time.
Man.
When things were always crazy, but for our generation, I think it's particularly crazy at this moment.
And there's this sort of at least when we were younger, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, this stigma attached to being an adult living with your parents. It's the easy butt of many jokes. But I would counter that what you were doing living there with your mom, it's in some ways it's also reconnecting with something even more classic, more traditional than this idea that adults are like these freestanding individuals. That's a very American idea.
Yeah.
That's a very capitalist, industrialized idea, right? People have only really been conceptualizing this idea of like a nuclear family that stands apart.
Yeah.
As the ideal since like the 20th century, and prior to that, multi-generational homes very much the norm. And so I think that's also an important thing to keep in your mind as you do that. I'm envious of you. I think that's a really great and cool thing.
Yeah. I think it's very good. I've come to appreciate it much more. When I left high school, I was so eager to get out of the house and be independent, and I've done that, and it's been good. And I did the coming back during the recession in 2008, and I was so miserable here, but it was I had a different mentality. At that time, I definitely felt like I should have been, the American single on my own, making my own way. And now I'm like, I don't care what other people think. I'm just going to do it, and I'm much happier for it. I mean, there's benefits of living with, multi-generational where, you get help and help each other, especially people. My dad's no longer here. So my mom's on her own. So, I got to shovel the whole driveway yesterday, which she would not have been able to do. And she would have been stuck here for like the whole weekend waiting for someone to come plow it, and it's a
that's
a long ass driveway because we live in like rural Indiana.
You need a bike to go get the mail, and you know that is a great point, right? In that multi-generational home, you get to bring different things to the table, considering where you are at the arc in your life, right? An older person maybe owns the property, a younger person can do the work to maintain the property.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's something symmetrical about that. And I would just say too, to your earlier remark, right, about when you came back during the Great Recession. In 2008, you're a younger man, and you know, may we all grow into our skin in the same way. May we all feel more comfortable and content and confident in who we are. I think again, so much what you're saying there, I can relate to, and I really hope that our listeners out there, they can relate to that too. We're talking today about, you know, generational. Sort of generational watershed moments on the show. We're talking about moments in pop culture, and moments in our lives that sort of define us. Phil, what is the main topic of today's episode?
Today we're doing Tragic Kingdom, the album from No Doubt, which is a little different than what we normally do. Normally you will see us talking about films, pop movies from the 80s and 90s that really, you know, something that we grew up on, whether it was like a touchstone for the generation or something that we just saw on ABC over and over again, highly edited, like a Sunday matinee when they had those. But yeah, we decided to pick an album, and that's what we're doing. We're doing No Doubt, because this is something that we were familiar with, but we didn't know really well. At least I think that's like, you know, okay. We, I don't want to put like words in your mouth, but I know you pretty well, and I know music wise we had a very close relationship, so I know like what you typically were listening to when you were younger, vice versa. So.
I agree. No, for those of you who just need a little refresher, No Doubt is a ska band that came out of Anaheim, California, right in Walt Disney's backyard. Tragic Kingdom, which came out in 1995, was their third album. And when they put this record out, they were on a major label, Interscope, but they were considered to be kind of on the verge of being dropped, as I understand it. They were not performing particularly well commercially. They had a cult following, a very regional following, but this was the era of grunge in which they were trying to make their way. So rock and roll was very much into sludgy, heavy guitars, heavy music. Frankly, music performed by males. I wouldn't say it's exclusively for males, but broadly for males. And so No Doubt, fronted by Gwen Stefani, and playing music that is influenced by ska and reggae and dub and pop punk, really kind of went against the grain. So I think the expectations for what this record was going to do were probably very modest. And it went on, as of this date, to sell 16 million copies worldwide, most of those within a couple of years of its release in 1995. It spawned singles that you could not escape, singles that kids today still know, whether they know the name of the artist. Singles like Just a Girl, that's the big one. Don't Speak, another huge blockbuster. Spiderwebs. These are songs that still get played regularly on the radio. They turn up in commercials and advertisements. And so this was a record that, while I did not own a copy, I knew people who owned copies. It played regularly in cars that I rode in. It was playing when I went to people's houses. It was a record cover that I could recognize from across the Walmart CD section. No Doubt, Tragic Kingdom, with Gwen Stefani in her little red dress, holding up an orange. I love, if you haven't seen this, I would urge you to Google it right now. This record cover, it's this great little bit of retro kind of kitsch. It looks like some kind of hand-painted ad from, I don't know, maybe the 30s, the 40s, and you've got the rest of the band standing under this dead, dried-up orange tree with some rotten oranges. And it looks like the kind of advertisement that would beckon you to come to California, the land of opportunity, the land of the American dream, right? Where anyone who wants to work can find it, where there's plenty of land, and man, it never gets below 70 degrees. And that's Tragic Kingdom, right? Because this is a dried up field, a dried up orange grove with literally rotten oranges on the cover. It's a great image. It is if nothing else, an iconic album cover. There's a fly on there too. There's a little fly. He's kind of like he's doing the thing with his little front legs, rubbing them together like he's about to dig in for a meal.
Yeah, I think it's a great album cover, and this is going to be. We were talking about this earlier. This is going to be strange for us to talk about because we are so used to picking out scenes. So I feel like a lot of this is going to be general and trying to wrap our heads around all this. So I apologize to the audience as we
talk about scenes and scenes in movies. But I would argue there are scenes on a record. There's the album cover most obviously, but every song and every lyric can also be a scene for us.
Yeah.
So.
But I want to what I was going to comment on was the cover and the songs in general, just the atmosphere, like the 90s. This was like, was that the year Cobain died, or was it 94?
He died in 1994, so this is a year and a half after Kurt Cobain died.
Yeah. So I saw an interview with Much Music, which is a Canadian version of MTV, with No Doubt, and the interview was talking about how angst is over. Because
just put it behind us. Everyone's happy now.
Angst is over, and it's talking about how No Doubt was a party band, and listening to this and even seeing the cover, I disagree with that. Angst was not over, and they are not strictly a party band, because even just looking at the cover, I mean, what they're commenting on is this idea of like what she's saying, like 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. And there's this that is no longer available, or it's no longer the sheen is off the apple type of deal. You know what I mean?
The broken promise. Yeah, it's the broken promise of the American dream.
What grunge was doing, and looking back, Gen X was doing, looking back at like boomers and the older generations. They're going like, this is nuts. Like we don't adhere to these values anymore. We don't like believe in this anymore. No Doubt is continuing that, and I think a very commercial focused way.
Yeah.
And doing so with the Tragic Kingdom, where the Tragic Kingdom is obviously like a nickname for the Magic Kingdom, Disneyland, where Disneyland and Disney World still are there to sell us American values and happiness.
Main Street, USA, the Hall of Presidents, right?
Where it's
Epcot Center, the American city of the future.
It's so manufactured, and No Doubt is going, no, let's show you. And they're using the language, and I love this, they're using the language of pop culture more so than the grunge. I mean, grunge was, I know a lot of people argue probably against it, but I mean, Nirvana had pop themes to it. It was Black Sabbath meets whatever pop music you want. But it's, No Doubt is now taking it to even like a sugary sweet bubblegum pop.
Yeah.
And saying like, okay, here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to house this language in something that's like easy to swallow, like a spoonful of sugar type of deal.
Yeah, I think you've got some really astute observations there, Phil. I knew there's a reason I agreed to do this show with you. You're a smart guy. Yeah, I think that what you're saying there, you're honing in on a few things, right? So grunge is the major musical movement of rock in the early 90s.
Yeah.
You could argue it was one of the last major musical movements in rock ever altogether, right? Like the last unified kind of wave of things like that. But their touchstone was punk, and their touchstone was 70s classic rock and 70s metal.
Yeah.
And all filtered through this kind of postmodern slacker lens.
Yeah.
A little bit of a detached, ironic lens with a little bit of kind of, again, leftist politics often in there, or kind of, third wave feminism filtered its way in there.
Mm-hmm.
But still, again, from a man's point of view. And no doubt they've got the same kind of postmodern sensibility.
Yeah.
No doubt is the same generation as those grunge bands. No doubt formed in 1986. Talk about a band that came out of nowhere in the national consciousness, that had paid their dues for 9 years before this record came out. Basically working away in relative anonymity with no major success, still working day jobs.
Yeah, just
all
doing
of
that Orange County punk scene playing.
So I love the point, this idea of them being a party band, the question of whether they're a party band. You have Gwen. Gwen is on the cover here, and Gwen is in, again, this iconic red party dress, right? This at first glance is a party album, and the music does make you want to move like it's a party album. It's again almost from start to finish this kind of upbeat poppy feeling music that makes you want to dance, that makes you want to move. I was struck by how dancey this record is. How again it does make you want to move. I underestimated that. But like you say, underneath that, right? It's almost like it's so sugary sweet that the teeth have rotted. Your teeth have rotted a little bit from this, right? And so there's also the decay beneath that. And I think that comes through not so much in the music, which again is sugary sweet, but the lyrics.
Yes.
And so, this is where we have to talk about Gwen Stefani. She is the part of this band. There's talented musicians across the board in this band. The drumming on this album is great. There's really inventive synthesizer use on this record, which I think is just
spectrum of music on this album blew me away. You have ska, but really inventive ska. Where it's ska, but it's not the classical or you just want to skank and hear horns. And then you've got like funk, you've got like punk, you've got just like straight up rock. It's
and you got these inventive synth lines that really
like
cut through on, like, for example, the synth lines that cut through on "Just a Girl." That's something I didn't appreciate when I was younger, but like they're unique. They're not quite like any other song I think I've heard. It really cuts through this lilting ska rhythm. Not even in the way that horns would. It's a really interesting song.
Yeah. But, as you were saying, the lyrics on here, Gwen Stefani, this is, from what I've read, this is like really the first album where the first number of songs where she's written anything. Before that, it was her brother, what's his name? Eric Stefani. Yeah, well, she has a couple of songs on here.
He founded the band.
Yeah.
But left the group right before this record was recorded to pursue a career in animation. He later went on to become an animator with The Simpsons. Yeah. And that sensibility, I think, is in his lyrics. The songs that he writes, for example, the title track, Tragic Kingdom, which is a funny song, right? And let's just talk about that real quick before we get into Gwen's lyrics for the counterpoint. Tragic Kingdom, the song, is the most, oblique... Sorry, the most obvious sort of example of what we're talking about, this cockeyed look at American pop culture. The lyrics on this thing, right, start out with "Remain seated, please," as if you're on a Disney World ride, right? Once was a magical place, over time it was lost, price increased the cost, now the fortune of the kingdom is locked up in its dungeon vaults, the castle floor lies in traps with coiled wires set back, decoyed by old cheese. Now the drawbridge has been lifted. As the millions they drop to their knees, they pay homage to a king whose dreams are buried in their minds. His tears are frozen stiff, icicles drip from their eyes. It's this awesome sort of like impressionistic portrait of corporate Disney. Michael Eisner, the legacy of Walt Disney, you know, who is many things, but you have to give the guy credit for being a creative visionary.
Yeah.
In addition to all the other things that he is, a capitalist, you know, the list goes on. And so you get this song that is a very, very direct, ironic critique of Disney, concerned with like this big picture social criticism.
Yeah.
That's Eric Stefani. But the bulk of the songs are written by Gwen.
Yeah.
As you say, stepping out for the first time.
Yeah. The thing with me was like I would always hear this music in the background, and so I always just thought, and I'm horrible with lyrics anyways. I never interpret them properly, or I never hear them clearly. I always have to read them. So when I was younger and I was listening to Spiderwebs, I thought it was just like another breakup song. You know, just it's like about a girl ignoring phone calls from an ex-boyfriend or somebody who's like wanting to get back with her. No, it's like straight up about like, you know, neckbeard or incel or some other pain in the ass stereotype boy, you know, setting a trap of spider webs, and she's trying to escape it carefully without triggering some deadly menace. Him. Yeah, right? And so she's being haunted by this man calling and leaving messages on her phone.
Yeah. You think that we connect, that the chemistry is correct. Your words walk right through my ears, presuming I like what I hear. That's just the opening stanza of this song. I was similarly struck by how great this song is. It's the man who's full of himself, who is, you know, completely incapable of reading her boredom with anything he has to say, right? There's no chemistry. She's flat out saying it. There's no chemistry between us. But you think just because I'm literally not like throwing my drink in your face, and telling you, you know, where to get off, just because I like have this little like this polite level of civil decorum, in my response to you, that I want to be your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And now I'm stuck in the web you're spinning. You've got me for your prey. Sorry, I'm not home right now. I'm walking into spiderwebs. And I love that spiderwebs image. A spiderweb, right? It's the cobweb. It's the thing you walk into on the path that you don't see. It's things you walk into but you don't see, but you feel it. And by the time you know it's there, by the time you've walked into it, by the time it hits you in the face, it's gross. You can't get it off of your face.
Yes.
And it's what a beautiful metaphor for toxic...
And if you're...
guy at the bar who doesn't know how to take a hint.
And if you're the prey, you're the fly. You want to escape that, but every movement causes a little vibration that the spider detects and starts honing in on you. So she's quietly trying to escape this.
Screening her phone calls.
Just pretty much what you would call ghosting at this point. But it's told from her perspective of a young woman, and you're like, okay, well, ghosting is a necessary evil sometimes. It happens. Sometimes you have to do it. But it's such an interesting. It's just a great take because you don't have lyrics from this. You don't have songs from this perspective often.
Almost never,
especially pop ones that are coming in, or that I'm aware of.
You more often are getting songs from the man's perspective about I'll do whatever it takes to win you. Don't pretend like you're not interested. I'll be outside with a boombox down below, however long it takes.
You mentioned grunge.
We're gonna get together.
Yeah. You mentioned grunge and third wave feminism, mostly talked about from the boys' perspective. This is a lived experience, so it goes beyond just like textbook. What we as men will learn from listening to a lecture or reading a book. This is like a lived experience coming from her, telling you this is how it is. This is how I experienced this. And I wish I had understood this. I wish I had known about this when I was younger. This is something that I had to learn. But I mean, I've been that guy on the other end, being like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing? How you doing?" Sending an email or texting, and there's no response, and I'm thinking like, "Oh, she's just busy." But really, there's just no interest, and she doesn't know how to tell me because she's hasn't gained the confidence to tell me, or as is often the case, and horribly the case, she doesn't know how I will respond. She doesn't know if I will get angry and respond in such a negative light where she feels intimidated or scared or for her life or her body, which is fair. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know me well. And
you're being incredibly persistent and not really picking up on any of the hints that she's trying to leave for you. And, I think that is the most extreme interpretation. But it's something that we as men learn.
It's there. Yeah, we as men learn, like, from stories like I think one of my grandparents was like, I was just really persistent and wore her down. Like, you think that's like a romantic thing. You hear that in stories. You see that on shows. You see that in movies.
So many romantic comedies. That's the plot of so many romantic comedies. A woman saying no over and over again, and a man saying, "You just don't realize yet that I'm the man you're going to marry."
So in my head, I'm thinking, this is how it's done, and then not thinking from her perspective, like. She's like, what?
Show up where she works.
This annoying, potentially scary man.
Stand on her lawn.
Yeah.
The lyrics. Yeah, man. The lyrics, right? Now it's gone too deep. You wake me in my sleep. My dreams become nightmares because you're ringing in my ears, the phone. Mm-hmm. Sorry I'm not home right now. I'm walking into spiderwebs, so leave a message, and I'll call you back. A likely story, but leave a message, and I'll call you back.
Yeah.
She's brushed this guy off every way that she knows how, and again, literally, right? Like, this shouldn't be a mystery to any guy on the receiving end of this, but as you say, it far too often is. We do live in a culture that celebrates the story of persistence. Again, we call it a romantic comedy, but in most of those movies, the kind of behavior that the men engage in, it's usually the men. That's the way this is gendered. The kind of behavior that the men engage in, frankly, in real life would be impolite, scary, potentially illegal.
Yeah.
Certainly not okay. And so this is the story from, I'm sure Gwen lived versions of this song. Gwen, again, if you've never seen a picture of Gwen Stefani, I'm not sure what planet you've been living on. She's an attractive, conventionally attractive woman in a rock and roll scene that is dominated by men. And again, short of throwing her drink in your face, right? Like, I'm sure she dealt with constant interest from males.
Much, yeah.
It's part of let's also be real. It's part of how this group is branded. It's how they're sold. It's right there on the record cover that we talked about. Gwen in her party dress with her legs and shoulders bare. The video for this song, right? The video for all of their songs have Gwen front and center, usually with her midriff bare.
Yeah.
There is definitely an element to this band in which Gwen's sexuality is at the forefront of how the music is being presented and how the group's image is being presented, and that is, again, just an observation, not a normative statement, not a judgmental statement. That is a huge part of how many bands are sold. You could say the same thing about Chris Cornell and Soundgarden. His shirt is off in almost every Soundgarden music video.
Yeah,
sex is wound up in pop culture and in music in particular. And so, again, the record cover with the guys and the band are a fraction of an inch tall, and Gwen basically is taking up the full height of the cover, right? It says everything about how this band is presented. And so you have to imagine playing these rock shows, meeting these music journalists to do interviews, working with photographers, let alone just living her daily life.
Yeah.
Gwen has been the person screening her phone calls probably for a long time at this point.
Yeah.
Which I think, like you said, my read on this as the song you hear while you're pushing the grocery cart down the aisle, right in the background, was that was a breakup song. But it's a song about a relationship that didn't even exist, that never got started. And it segues so nicely into the other big kind of banger pop hit, instantly recognizable song, which we mentioned earlier, Just a Girl. This was the other big single off this record, apart from Don't Speak, which we can get into in a bit. But like, I just want to connect that line for a second. Spiderwebs and Just a Girl have got a lot, I think, in common in that they're talking about the experience of being a young woman in, frankly, a man's world.
Yes.
Just a Girl starts out with the lines, "Take this pink ribbon off my eyes. I'm exposed and it's no big surprise. Don't you think I know exactly where I stand? This world is forcing me to hold your hand." A man's hand, presumably. "Because I'm just a girl, oh little old me. Well, don't let me out of your sight. Oh, I'm just a girl, all pretty and petite. So don't let me have any rights. Oh, I've had it up to here." And in the video, she keeps putting her hand up to the top of her head, up to her forehead, up to her hairline, right? Which is a great... She does it so subtly, like it's a dance move, that if you didn't know what the line was, you would think it was just some kind of, you know, skanking dance move. But she keeps putting her hand up to her head like a salute, almost, right? And it's, I've had it up to here. The moment I step outside, so many reasons for me to run and hide. I can't do the little things I hold so dear, because it's all those little things that I fear.
Yeah.
And it's you know, again, you've got, you know, Kurt Cobain writing a song like Polly. You know, he drops so many strong female characters into his music. I'd say Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam was doing similar things. Ian MacKaye and Fugazi writes Suggestion, another big song, but these are all men.
Yeah.
And there's value in that, trying to bring that perspective to male fans. I applaud those writers for attempting to bring that sensitivity into a hard rock sound, to bridge that gap for other males. I mean, that certainly had an impact on me, and I think on you. But here you have it right from Gwen's mouth, right from her lived experience, and she's, again, putting it in the paint of an upbeat pop song. It sounds playful and fun. Angst is gone. Right? But I can't go outside because I'm just your little prototype. You just want to hold my hand and you just want to protect me from everything, right? You told me I can't handle living life. I can't make decisions for myself, right? It's funny because it's like the opposite side of the coin from Spiderwebs, right? Which is all about being exposed, right? To this man who won't take no for an answer. And this song is about men telling her no.
Yeah.
Father figures, boyfriends, you know, well-intended, but not particularly respectful men in her life telling her no.
What's the word?
Just a girl.
Infantilizing?
Yeah, infantilizing her, right?
Okay. Yeah, it's infantilizing her in this. And the thing is that I love about this song is, and just this whole album, is like if you compare it to, you know, other early punk women work like Hole, L7, Bikini Kill,
The Slits,
that kind of stuff is like this aggressive, like macho, masculine rock, and totally, I love that stuff. It's totally valid, but once
it's not getting played on the top 40,
it's not getting
really.
Played, and then once somebody sees it, they get to go ahead and say, "Oh, this is just some like angry woman. This is the
right."
This is the, and I excuse me saying this, but this is, you know, just a bitch just complaining about, you know, whatever. Just like looking to complain, or they're just angry. They're like the man-hating whatever. And then you've got like this stereotypical California girl from Orange County, you know, who's
the girl who's supposed to revel in this. Yeah, she's supposed to love this kind of attention.
Yeah, who's singing sweetly in this bubblegum pop. She's taking everything that's been fed to her, and she's still saying, "No, this is how it is." She's straight up explain, instead of just getting angry and yelling at somebody. This is almost, and I mean, I think she is doing that in this album in a lot of ways, but she's also doing it in such a way that people cannot tell her she's angry and yelling at them because she's not raising her voice. She's doing it in a very calculated way that, you know, that is unfortunately how women still have to do it, where they have to like say something nicely in the boardroom because otherwise they're the angry person. But if a guy says it, then they're like a pistol whip. They're like, what? Like, yeah, this guy's got balls. Or the woman says, "Oh man, she's just angry. She's a battle axe."
Hillary Clinton debates Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And she's the one who's yelling. She's the one who's shrill.
And then he's like, what? And he's just looming over her, like
berating her, interrupting her.
Oh God, yeah,
man, totally. And Gwen, you're right. That's a great way to talk about how she pitches this, right? Again,
yeah.
So I love this this idea that there's no angst in this record.
Yeah,
this is. In some ways, this stands alongside like Ani DeFranco or something.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I was thinking. In terms this
of
whole
the way it's
album, I was thinking of Ani DeFranco because I'm like, what does this sound like to me? This sounds like something from Ani, but it's like
they all right. I love the line in this song. They all sit and stare with their eyes, presumably the men. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm just a girl. Take a good look at me, right? Like, it's this notion of just being on a platter, which again, ironically. She's monetizing and leveraging that in terms of lifting the band up, but this isn't about that. This is about I feel like so much the day-to-day thing. She's talking about not driving at night. She's talking about making her own destiny, your rule of thumb. I'm living in captivity, right? These are not songs about fame, because Gwen Stefani at this point is not fame.
Right.
She's not a sex symbol in the broad, massive pop culture way that arguably she would become. Mm-hmm. This is a song about literally just being a girl. Like this, I mean, that's what the song is. It's very aptly titled. It's literally about just being a girl that people find pretty, right? And the kind of burdens, she uses that word in the lyrics here too. What I've become is so burdensome, right? The way that society and men and other people lay all these things on you, confine you and constrict you, tell you what to be, tell you what you can't be, and tell you what you can't do. Yeah. And turn you into an object. They put you on a pedestal that can't be taken down. And again, she's doing it in this chirpy, fun way, because you have to couch your criticism of the patriarchy that way. As you said, we have all kinds of words in our English language, words I'm not going to say right now, words that I try really hard never to say. Mm-hmm. Misogynistic words, so many words for women, like Courtney Love or Joan Jett or Ani DeFranco, who are a bit more biting or direct in their criticism of the patriarchy. Mm-hmm. But Gwen here is doing it to a fun ska beat. Yeah. With a nice synth solo behind her, and she's got the dance moves to go with it. And so, like, you can play this and it doesn't threaten your mom. Yeah. It doesn't threaten your dad. It doesn't threaten all the, like, normal people in your suburban world. Mm-hmm. This song can get played at the grocery store. And if you actually are the kid who takes a minute to tune into the lyrics, to listen into the lyrics, there's really something subversive going on here. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. At first it seems very much like a typical girl power type of ballad. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm a girl.
Girl power with a little like heart flower next to it, sold on a T-shirt at Walmart, right? That's not really girl power. It was designed by a man, sold by a man, and making Sam Walton and his heirs rich.
And it's like,
girl power. You're TM.
You're a girl. Yeah, it's great being a girl, and I'm sure it is. But this is, I mean, she has a line here that says, "'Cause I'm just a girl, I'd rather not be." Yeah. She's clearly saying, like, you have no idea the weight of responsibility and the weight of problems and the weight of being a girl is. I mean,
add it up to here. Am I making myself clear? Yeah. That's another lyric. Am I making myself clear? Oh, lucky me, Tweedledum. There's no comparison.
She hints at to hold your hands, like she's being. She's being looked down upon as if she's a child, but at the same time she's being looked at and being leered at as a sex object. She's really like peeling back the layers of like what being a girl is and coming into, I suppose, I guess your womanhood, or first being aware of this stuff. Yeah. What the problems are, and saying like there's no right answer to being a girl because I am being imposed by all these restrictions by the patriarchy, by society.
Right. Society. Lots of people are telling me how to do this.
What I can be, what I should be, and and most importantly, what I should not and can't do.
Yeah.
You know, the rules of, like, no, being told no,
Yeah.
or you shouldn't do. So, like
Yeah.
putting them in a box and then squeezing that box tighter and tighter each time they move.
Right.
And it's a really amazing song. It's really such a subversive song that, and the thing is, like, somebody who picks up on lyrics is probably just going to get this a lot better. But it's also, I was trying to put this in terms of, like, you know, it gets played over and over again, and maybe you're not 100% conscious of the lyrics, but I think they're going to get in your head in some way.
Seeping in there, yeah.
Yeah, they're planting something, and you may not be 100% aware of them, but
I'd also
you're gonna be a little bit more open to, you know, someone using these words,
Sure.
you know, in an argument for why women should have equal rights, autonomy, bodily autonomy, all this stuff that's important.
Right. It's in this song and this record in general, but this song in particular, it does all of that without being political in the explicit way that a lot of people think political has to be. Right. This song and again Gwen Stefani's lyrics in general in this record are all about this idea that the personal is political.
Yeah.
That the way that you present yourself, the way that you live your life is a choice you're making, right? And that there is not a clean divide between the personal lifestyle that you are leading and the way that you cast a ballot, the systems of oppression. To borrow Gwen's metaphor, the spider webs that you walk into every day in terms of the way that society is placing restraints on you or trying to dictate your path to you. I mean, I would just like to say, right, you mentioned the lyrics there, right? And this Gwen's lyrics and this record, you know, coming out at the height of the CD. This is a couple years before you can download music off the internet. So the main way that people consumed this record would have been as a CD purchased at Sam Goody or at Walmart, ordered through their parents' Columbia House subscription. And so this is like the quintessential record. This is still a time where a teenage kid, a middle school kid, presumably would have been sitting in their bedroom with this on their Discman, with this on their shelf system, their boombox, reading the lyrics along. I used to do that, and I think a lot of music fans used to do that. I know that again, I'm sure kids still do that on a phone screen. I think that part of being a teenager, a certain kind of teenager anyway, is poring over the lyrics and looking for those kernels of wisdom, those lines that hit just right, that help to describe how you're feeling, right? And Gwen here is like a big sister.
Yeah.
To all the guys and girls listening to this record, trying to figure out what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman. And Gwen, just a little bit older at this point, I think probably in her late 20s, mid to late 20s, when she's writing these words, is the bigger sister, trying to offer you a little bit of advice and trying to commiserate a little bit too. And I think that's part of why this record really connects with people in the mid 90s. There's the fun music. Again, her vocals are great. Her vocal performance is great. That draws you in. But there's lots of records that feature lively studio musicians. There's lots of one-hit wonders out there. And I think one of the things that sets this record apart and these songs apart, it's the lyrics. It's the thing that gives them the staying power and the substance.
Yeah.
I was reading about, this record and kind of its arc. When it first came out, it didn't do much. It was like their first two records. It was a very slow takeoff. And there were a few things that happened that changed that. They one of those things being that they got on the Warped tour, which had to have been one of the first Warped tours.
Yeah.
So they're out there probably playing in the middle of the afternoon, which is the prime time. The cool people show up later on. That's the prime time for middle school kids at the Warped tour, right?
Right.
Who get dropped off by their mom at 10 in the morning, and that's probably when No Doubt is playing. But then the huge thing, right, is January of 1996, when Gwen Stefani guest hosts Channel 1 News.
Oh, yeah.
And for those of you who do not know what Channel 1 News is, this was Phil and I went to middle school together. It was in our middle school. This was back in the day where I guess it was hard to get screens in schools, like TVs. We didn't call them screens back then. We called them TVs. These are big CRT units, the big fat TVs that you need two grown men to carry into the room, right? Channel 1 News is this company, or was this company, that would buy TVs for your whole school, put a TV in every classroom. You could use that as you pleased, as long as you agreed to show their 7-minute, their 10-minute news program every morning or every day in school. And then Channel 1 News would have, maybe 5 minutes of news, which was, I think a fair enough effort at keeping students informed about current events.
Yeah.
But in addition to that 5 minutes of news, you had 5 minutes of advertising, a literal captive audience of presumably millions of middle school and high school aged children across the country, right? Who are getting your advertisements for your pimple medication, for whatever it is you're trying to do to make them insecure about their bodies. Corporate America, gee whiz, thank you, right? And that was the deal with the devil that many schools signed, because in America we can't properly fund our schools. They have to seek out corporate deals to get electronics in their schools, at least in the 90s, right? We can't properly or responsibly tax ourselves to properly fund our schools. And so Phil and I belong to a generation, like many millennials, who had to accept literally that our algebra class was brought to us by Pantene Pro V, right? And right?
Yeah.
And Lubriderm and whatever else, right? So Gwen Stefani hosted this to help promote the record. She was a guest host on the Channel 1 News program with probably a young Anderson Cooper. And she was in 12,000 classrooms in January. And very quickly after that, right, that begins the real upward tick in the trajectory of this record. It's one of the little snowballs that help move this record along. And so it's very much a product of MTV, 90s, the Channel 1 News thing, the Warped Tour. This band is very much at ground zero for like maybe an unprecedented level of marketing in terms of the way pop music is being pushed at young people, right? It's on the eve of like full-blown internet, and MTV and these kind of like monoculture things still have some weight. And there's this corporate Warped Tour thing, and so it's this package tour, right, which I think was also a new phenomenon in the early 90s. And so they are also, with that record, sitting at that intersection.
Yeah.
Channel 1 News.
Channel 1 News. Yeah.
But how powerful is that for Gwen Stefani to come on, right, on that show, right?
Yeah.
And presumably they would always play, like, if they had a guest host like this, you probably remember if they'd play like 12 seconds of that.
Yeah.
Of pop music as they were coming to and from commercials, and I'm sure they're blasting "Just a Girl," "Spiderwebs," "Don't Speak."
I have to stick that
on that day
clip out. But the other thing is, like, the thing about Gwen Stefani is, she's conventionally attractive, but she has a very cool style that I can imagine would appeal to young women, like, everywhere.
Sure.
Who are, when you're in middle school and you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want to wear and stuff like that, you're looking to, older people who are probably in their 20s, but they also have accessible clothing. And this was still at a time when, Gwen is probably
into a thrift store.
Yeah, Gwen was probably wearing stuff that you can get at a thrift store, because it was still very much a root and punk style that she had. So I can imagine just somebody seeing that, a young woman seeing that and going, what the heck? Who is that?
Sitting up straight. Yeah. What is that?
What's going on? Who is that?
Yeah.
Doesn't look like, God, who would be out at the time? I don't think Britney Spears was around. It was 95.
No. This is like 5 years before 4 or 5 years before Britney Spears hits. You know what? Like Mariah Carey.
Yeah. It would have still. I'm trying to think if there's
Janet Jackson.
Any like cool younger punkish women out.
No.
Gwen would have been like one of the first. She would have been like bringing in like Britney Spears, Avril Lavigne, that kind of stuff.
A decade later, but again, let's be real. Both of them are following in the footsteps of Gwen instead, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. But
to be clear, right, to situate this, right?
Yeah.
She's not Mariah Carey. There's nothing against Mariah Carey, but like Mariah Carey is a whole other kind of package in terms of the way she's presented, the glamour and the things that are attached to her image, the way she's presented.
Yeah.
Whereas Gwen, right, is this beautiful California blonde who is again wearing, very striking clothing. I doubt she was bearing her midriff on that Channel 1 news clip, though. We'll have to check that out. But it's worth noting at this point too, even in the videos. I don't know if you took the time to watch the videos, the MTV type videos.
I didn't watch those.
She's already wearing like a bindi on her forehead, right, which is the conventional mark of beauty in India.
Yeah.
So later on in Gwen's career, she faced some criticism for like cultural appropriation, right? Like most famously, maybe like in the mid-aughts when she was she had a number of Japanese women following her around that she called her Harajuku girls.
She named them different names and
that
was weird.
So Gwen does deserve maybe a little bit of flack for that, especially later on. But there's already the antecedents of that here in the promo videos where she's like she's wearing like a sport bra and like track pants. That's how she's dressed in a lot of these videos. Yeah. But she has a bindi on her forehead, right? Which is again something adopted from another culture. But she's striking. Again, she's not dressing in a way that is like unattainable.
Right. That's the thing.
She's not wearing something that's expensive. It's the kind of thing that again you could go to the Walmart where you bought this CD and buy something very similar to what Gwen is wearing. And maybe be able to rock that look.
Yeah. She also dyed her hair she would dye her hair purple or blue or different colors and I think
that came a little bit later too, but also, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but she was like bleach blonde, like bottle bleach blonde, like
yes. It's platinum.
Yeah. Which I know as a young person when I was seeing punks do that kind of stuff, I dyed my hair, I bleached it and dyed it green and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I found that to be like one of the most liberating things to see somebody else doing that.
Right.
Because then I was like, oh, I can like do this thing to myself that no one else can control, really. You
can't really reverse it.
You can't really reverse it.
I mean, it'll grow out. It's not a tattoo. But
yeah.
Also, what are you going to do? Make me shave my head? That's even more confrontational.
Yeah. I actually had the money from some job, and I went out and did that. I had a professional do that to me. It was so painful. I don't think they knew what they were doing. But it's one of those things where, especially as a woman, like a young woman, you're just a girl, and like, oh, I can do something to my hair that's for me, that's mine, an act of rebellion.
It's taking some control. It's an act of rebellion. I feel like in the modern day, that obviously would not be nearly as striking in terms of a statement. We live in a time where you can walk down the street even in suburban America and people have different colored hair, especially women, right?
Yeah.
Like hair that is obviously red or blue or some not natural color. Even most schools, that's not against the dress code anymore. But there was a time, I think, in the early 90s, the mid 90s, when this came out, where that actually was a kind of provocative thing. I remember you did this when you were on the high school volleyball team. You dyed your hair, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a semi-controversial thing with your coach.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's one of those things of a different era. There are certainly provocative things that kids do in terms of fashion statements now.
Right.
But it was a different era where you're right. This is sort of a very striking and shocking thing for someone to be presenting themselves in this way. So yeah, there's a ton of image I guess, is the sum total of where we're at with this, right? In terms of the Channel 1 news, the music videos, the fashion, and just the way that Gwen presents herself. It's the 1-2 punch of this band.
Yeah.
Where it is fun, it's exciting, it's a little bit shocking. It's that California dream of those kids are just a little bit cooler than me. They felt like they could be high school kids, even though they're a little bit older. They felt like they could be high school kids. They're just they go to a little bit cooler school than you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, could I do that too? Or like, you know, I think that is the probably most people's experience with this record.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the enduring phenomenon of this band. I know a lot of people who have very fond memories who still, I bet if there was a No Doubt reunion tour, I think Gwen is on TV now. She's a host on one of those vocal contest shows, if I understand. She's at a whole different place in her life, and I don't think No Doubt has done anything as a band in quite some time. But if they were to, I'm sure they eventually will, if they were to, you know, there's a whole generation out there of people our age and probably a little bit older, and actually probably plenty of young people too, who'd be willing to fork over, I don't know, Rolling Stones kind of money for tickets to that reunion.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. This
aging millennials.
Yeah, this band, this legacy. I mean, we didn't even touch on the rest of the album, or something like "Don't Speak," which is like a typical breakup, heartfelt love song. But I mean, we talk about her lyrics and her style, but like her performances also add something to these. Like this could be like just a normal, typical, like we said, breakup song, but the way she delivers it, there's anger there. There's like sadness, but there's this anger there that I don't think, you know, normal breakup songs, or at the time, you know, you would often hear breakup songs, especially from the woman's point of view, being like angry, like angry that something like this is ending, and whether that anger comes from a place of justification or not, or like, you know, why you're angry, it's still there. You know, when something ends like that, you're still like, you're sad, but you can also be angry about it, and it not necessarily makes sense why you're angry. You're just like, God, I can't believe this ended. This sucks, even though I know it should have ended. Like,
well, and you're right. On some levels, right, this is Don't Speak is a very conventional breakup song. But I do like the way that lyrically, you know, it's not I want you back, it's not take me back, it's not I remember the good times. It's literally just it's taking some level of control. Don't speak, stop talking.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear it, I can't bear it, whatever you're going to say.
Yeah, don't give me an explanation. I don't care. Just
it's done.
It's done. Yeah.
We used to be together for always, and now it's not. So stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Right. There's a harshness to that that I think is very relatable. But like, as you know, you can hear the anguish in her voice, but it's not a whiny one. It's not one that wants to really talk it out. It's one that, like, as hurt as she is, it's like, let's just end this.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't speak. Don't ruin what it was. Don't, you know, like, it's there's almost a part of her that is just like this no drama.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, as much as there's anguish in her voice, it's over.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I love that. Yeah, it's a great song. There's this whole album's really good.
It is really good.
Yeah, it's an album I recommend to a lot of people, I think. I know you usually ask that question at the end, but I'm just gonna.
Yeah, you beat me to it. You are taking on, Phil, here a kind of like Gwen Stefani level of independence. I like to see that you're becoming a little spunkier, getting a little bit of a backbone in this relationship.
I mean, listening to No Doubt, Tragic Kingdom three times, pretty much in a row, intensely. This is like one of the most intense listens I've had in a long time. It kind of gets into you, and you start feeling a little bit more oomph behind you.
I know what you mean. I feel like I've been walking down the sidewalk to a ska beat. I've been skanking down the sidewalk.
Oh my god, it's been
all week. I can't help it.
I've done it. I skanked a couple times, but it was so hard not to do that the whole time listening to this album. It brought me back to. That's another thing I think I love about this album. It brought me back to high school, middle school days when we would go to shows at the Moose Lodge, and there'd be people, and a lot of times the ska bands didn't have horns, but they'd be playing, a little pop music that you could skank to, and it was it was so good.
Fun to move that way.
This is one of those beautiful albums where it's pop, it's going mainstream, but they're still so close to their roots that you hear that punk, local scene, small shows, probably no stage. Everyone's on the floor on the same level. You hear that sound, and you hear that in the lyrics too, where she's just going for it, and it's great.
They're selling out, but they're doing it on their own terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Like again, cycling back full circle on this. If you look at that record cover one more time, the title of this record, right? It's No Doubt up top in kind of chrome-plated lettering, but it says No Doubt brand underneath it, right? They are 100% they're swinging for the fence, but at the same time, this is a record that Interscope, their label, thinks is going to do nothing, or thinks it's not going to be. It's going to be a modest hit if they're happy. It's going to be a base hit, right? And this thing ends up being a grand slam. But there's that little wink right there on the cover where Gwen Stefani is a spokesmodel holding up a rotten orange, right? With a little wink, right? It's full circle here, right? They're selling it hard. You think you're coming here for a good time, but what you're going to get is not what you think.
Yeah.
And if anything encapsulates, I think what was great about that moment in the 90s where things that had previously been indie, things that had previously been DIY, in part because of the breakout success of Nirvana, these things were welling to the top, and maybe they were getting a little bit of a leash from their record labels to experiment and find their way. This record definitely encapsulates that experience. As poppy as it is, these are people making pop for themselves and for their fans, and no one else.
Yeah.
If I could leave you with a recommendation for once, it'd be to go and watch the music videos for this song, right? Or for this record, especially Just a Girl, and Spiderwebs. And in fact, in the video for Spiderwebs, you've got literally the band packing up and leaving the house where they used to live and practice to go to a show, right? So you actually see the house in which they're practicing, and it's not a fancy mansion.
Right.
This band is not trying to put on any kind of fake airs about their glamour. They're packing into a van, driving across town to the show, and it's great. I'm sorry, it's Just a Girl. It's Just a Girl where they're leaving the house. I misspoke. It's the video for Just a Girl. But it's great. So, if you want to feel for what this band was like before this record took off, this is like an almost no-budget video shot with them riding in the back, and yeah, it's great. There's literally a wrecked car with a tarp over it sitting in the driveway. I mean,
nice.
Very nice. I would recommend this song this record to, like you say, just about him. I have a daughter. I've been playing this to her all week as I've imbibed it. We were out back just a little bit ago before we recorded this. We were playing Horse at the basketball hoop behind our house with No Doubt blasting, and I was nice. Again, I'm sure embarrassing. I'm sure my daughter is glad no one was around, but I was skanking while I was dribbling, and it felt like I was in. It was 1996, and I was in middle school again.
Yeah,
so.
Nice. That's awesome. Oh man.
Speaking of aging millennials, Phil, that is the sound that longtime listeners of our show know indicates that it's time to transition into the next segment.
Yeah.
And the segment today, Phil, if I understand, it's sticking with the theme of aging millennials. Phil, what is the special segment that you're going to bring to us today?
Our segment is a very popular one. We're bringing it back. It's My Body is Falling Apart.
Oh, no.
Popular, I think.
Still?
Yeah. Popular, I think, to listeners, and also popular just because my body is falling apart. Last time it was about finding a white nose hair. This time it's about having... I mentioned earlier that I shoveled yesterday. I hurt probably from my eyebrows down. My whole body aches. I have...
but your hairline is okay.
My hairline
is doing okay.
My hairline's feeling good. I have 2 patches on my shoulders and neck from some it's called like Solanapaw or Solanapas or something.
Patches.
Yeah.
Salonpas. I've seen that on late night television.
Yeah, for old people.
Salonpas.
Yeah.
Doctor recommended. They advertise it in Jeopardy.
Yeah.
That's one of the sponsors of Jeopardy for old people.
Yeah, it works. I use them. I use them more than I should. I probably for my shoulders and back. But yeah, I could not shake a headache today, which was pretty much just a pain in my neck and shoulders. So I slapped 2 of those on. I smell like a medicine cabinet. It smells a little bit like icy hot and vapor rub or whatever, rub.
You're brewing up a very potent stew. I can almost smell you from over here.
I'm stinking it up, and and I'll be honest. I just hurt all over after this episode. I'm going to go lay down and not move for the rest of the day. That's my goal.
This does not bode well for your living arrangement. One of the ideas here is that you're young and able to bring something to the table in terms of physical labor. And Phil, I got to say, man, your mom's going to put you out to pasture soon.
I was fine until the last third or so of that driveway, man. That is a long driveway.
Man. It is.
And we had
impressive.
We had a snowdrift halfway through. I think that's what really did me in. Yeah, I know. It's not boding well. I'll be good tomorrow, I think. I'll be good tomorrow. But yeah, I was walking like an old man yesterday, and I'm feeling like an old man today. Definitely feeling bad. Another downside is like when I have any kind of headache, I tend to get like a little stomach turn. Like I can't.
Little nausea.
I get a little nauseous.
There,
yeah,
huh?
Headaches are my biggest enemy. I would rather be anything than have a headache. It's my least favorite thing in the world. But anyways, yeah. So my body's falling apart. I'm 38. I cannot do the kind of physical labor that I used to be able to do. I literally came home, came back in after shoveling, and I had to record another podcast. And I talked about shoveling, and I was going to use that image from of shoveling snow. So I googled shoveling snow images, and one of the articles that came up was like looking for signs of heart attack and stroke while shoveling snow. That didn't make me feel good.
The algorithm knows you, Phil. The algorithm knows you.
Oh God, yeah. That's one of my biggest fears.
So if I can summarize, right? If any kind of agent, if any kind of marketing representative from Salonpas or other medicine brands that have traditionally targeted the elderly are listening, what we're trying to do right now is give you an early heads up that there are millennials, specifically millennials who have this podcast, who would be interested in taking on a sponsorship. Salonpas, we're looking at you.
Yeah.
We'll give you this one for free, but in the future, if you're interested in putting a little something our way, we'd be happy to keep talking about how wonderful your product is.
Exactly.
I hear it smells great.
Yeah. There's another one I've used in the past called, I think it's called like Tiger Patches or something, but I would pick that up at the I think I picked that up at the H Mart, which is a Korean grocery store.
That one sounds maybe a little less mainstream, a little less brand name.
Yeah. Still good.
Maybe you don't know exactly what you're getting with that Tiger Patch.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, if people love No Doubt, but more so if they love our show, how can they keep the conversation going? How can they find out more about Pop of the Morning, or any one of the other wonderful podcasts brought to you by the Cosmic Blair Network, of which we are a part. Phil, where can they learn about the show?
They can go to cosmicblair.com. That's the home for all things Cosmic Blair. And then from there, you can check out our links on social media. We're, I think, Cosmic Blair on every platform except for Instagram, where we're Cosmic Blair Podcasts. Somebody else has Cosmic Blair. Strangely
we're working on them. Trying to bring them into the fold.
Yeah. But if you want to support us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/Cosmic Blair, and for as little as $1 a month, up to infinity, you can support us monetarily, and that's a huge help to us.
It is.
We've been able to pay for all our services and web hosting with our current monthly, and that's
which is huge. And we want to thank all of the sponsors who are out there every month supporting us. We want to thank everybody who puts the word out about this show. And we are ambitious. We have great goals, including new shows in the coming year. We'd love to do this show more frequently.
Yes.
So if you enjoy the show, there's two things you can do. You can join us at patreon.com, as Phil said, for as little as $1 a month. And you can tell your friends about the show. If you get a No Doubt fan, a Gwen Stefani fan, a fan of pop culture from the 80s, 90s, and aughts, the kind of stuff that made you who you are today, please subscribe. Please send your friends our way. If you're on Patreon, please let us know if there's any topics, any movies, shows, or records you'd like us to talk about in the future. We do take your suggestions quite seriously.
Yeah.
And to all of you, anyone still listening at this point, we thank you for your support.
Yes, thank you.
Phil, next time on the show, what are we going to be discussing? What are we covering next time on the show? Is there a next time?
There is a next time. I hope there's a next time. As long as my body doesn't completely give out, there will be. Did you
finish reading that article about shoveling the snow and heart attacks?
No, I read the headline and I exposed it. Next time is Family Matters. That's right, the 90s classic Family Matters from the TGIF lineup.
The Perfect Strangers spin-off starring Jaleel White as Steve Urkel.
Yes, what it's known for is Family Matters, the Perfect Strangers spin-off. Which I think there's...
Trying to give people some context here.
Was there another show that spun off from Family Matters, or am I wrong on that? Am I thinking of something else?
It was all a broad web that may very well be. But either way, next time we're going to be taking a look at a selection of episodes from that run. Phil, in advance of that episode, of that upcoming episode, is going to be on social media. He's going to post, I think, a partial list of the episodes we'll be discussing.
Yeah.
So you two can join in on the conversation.
I can tell you.
And so
let me throw some out right now. The ones, because I have the list here.
Awesome.
We're going to watch the pilot, the finale. We're going to watch one called Stevel from Season 8. We're going to Disney World Part 2 from Season 6, and it's beginning to look a lot like Urkel from Season 4. I don't have the episode numbers on those, but those are the seasons and the names of the episodes. And then you and I will each be doing 2 or 3 random episodes that we want. But those are the main ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good time, taking you back to Friday nights when you were 8 years old. I hope you'll join us next time on Pop of the Morning, as we sip our coffee cups, we raise a glass to to pop culture past, and we contemplate what has become of us as aging millennials.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on this episode. I will remain until the next time we see you, Tom.
And I'm Phil, and Pop of the Morning.
Pop of the Morning to you. That's some caffeine in the sinuses there.
Yeah.